Well, it's the season for proclamations, I think, still. So we have two of them this evening, and it's my privilege to issue the first one for something called Dump the Pump. Whereas National Dump the Pump Day was established in 2006 to encourage use of public transit and beat high gas prices, and whereas the Community Transportation Association of Idaho, CTAI, endorses Dump the Pump as a day as a way to encourage use of public transit, van pools, and non-motorized transportation over single-occupant vehicles. And whereas riding the bus saves money, restores the environment, lessens dependence on fossil fuels, decreases traffic congestion, reduces parking requirements, and improves access and mobility. And whereas public transit is good for business, with every dollar invested generating $4 in economic returns, including job creation and business sales. And whereas Walmart Foundation recently supported public transit in Moscow with an $87,500 donation to purchase a new bus for Sustainable Moscow Area Regional Transportation, or SMART Transit. And whereas at a compact 6.8 square miles, Moscow is well suited to public transit and non-motorized transportation alternatives. And whereas Moscow's environmentally aware and cost-conscious population benefits from affordable, convenient, sustainable transportation choices. And whereas free local bus service by Smart Transit is complemented by Dial-A-Ride, the city's commuter van pool, Vandal Access Shuttle, Intercity Transit by Northwestern Trailways, a volunteer driver program, formulation of an integrated multimodal transportation plan, improvements to bicycle pedestrian infrastructure, and Moscow's new intermodal transit center. And whereas demands for public transportation continue to grow, with a 64% increase in ridership between 2005 and 2012 to a high of 168,756 fixed route rides in 2012, even as funding becomes more challenging. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Cheney, Mayor for the City of Moscow, do hereby proclaim June 20th, 2013, as Dump the Pump Day in Moscow, and I encourage citizens to take the bus, carpool, walk, or bike to work, school, play, and errands on that day. And next is another recurring proclamation for, this one is for 2013, Pollinator Week. Whereas pollination is a critical part of food crop production, biodiversity, and our economy. And whereas U.S. agricultural production, valued at tens of billions of dollars annually, depends on pollinators and includes Idaho's multi-million-dollar alfalfa seed crop, as well as flowers, apples, cherries, plums, pears, nuts, berries, pumpkins, squash, cucumbers, watermelon, cantaloupe, and more. And whereas pollinators are critical for reproduction of many native plant species too, including wildflowers, trees, shrubs, seeds, and wild berries, which also support wildlife. And whereas pollinators like bees, wasps, flies, beetles, birds, moths, butterflies, bats, and other small mammals are threatened by disease, parasites, pesticides, habitat fragmentation, and climate change. And whereas according to the USDA, an average of 30% of managed colonies of honeybees have died off in each of the past 6 winters. And whereas the causes of so-called colony collapse disorder are not fully understood, but evidence suggests that several stressors and pathogens, possibly in combination, are implicated. And whereas the public may improve outcomes for pollinators through awareness and education, reduced use of pesticides, preserving open space, planting appropriate vegetation, and providing habitats with water and shelter. And whereas informational resources include the Latah Soil and Water Conservation District, Xerces Society for Invertebrate Conservation, Idaho Conservation Data Center, Idaho Fish and Game, NatureServe Network, Palouse Land Trust, USDA, Washington State University, the University of Idaho, and honey vendors at our own Moscow Farmers Market. Now, therefore, I, Nancy Cheney, Mayor for the City of Moscow, Idaho, do hereby proclaim the week of June 17th through 23rd, 2013 as Pollinator Week, and I encourage residents to nurture habitats that promote the vitality of pollinators and restoration of their populations that support us in so many significant ways. And these proclamations typically don't just stay with us here at the City of Moscow, but many of them are shared nationally with our counterparts around the country so that they may know some of the issues that are important to us here in Moscow, Idaho, and that we share with them.